All right, let's bring in Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent, to help set up the other action today. Let's go from one Mag 7 to another. We've got Nvidia in focus this morning. Shares under some pressure in the pre-market. What's going on here, KG?
Yeah, you're seeing the shares down about 4.6%. I mean, the broader equity market itself, if you're just looking at the futures, are seeing a little bit of pressure. I think there's also maybe some selling activity taking place because of potential tariffs or adjustments of tariffs for Japan, and also maybe some retaliatory tariffs as well as additional sanctions and things of that nature, potentially going to China, which Nvidia is going to obviously have a little bit of an impact there. So you are seeing the shares to the downside. We did see that CoreWeave IPO. You know, the market's calling it a disappointment, but it did close higher than where it opened on Friday. But obviously, we did not see a massive run up to the upside when it came to CoreWeave, and Nvidia has a fair amount of exposure there. They actually did buy around $250 million worth of shares on the day of the IPO. So you are seeing CoreWeave down in pre-market as well as Nvidia. And once again, this is just a degrossing situation across the board when it comes to equities. And some of these companies that have had some pretty decent valuations and a really decent run might be the ones that get sold first for a lot of investors that are looking for to take profits as well as maybe to reduce some exposure.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, like, to your point about CoreWeave. I think part of it is the overall expectation for the IPO market this year so far hasn't materialized yet, because there was this expectation we'd see a massive growth story here, and with the risk-off sentiment we've been having, it's not helpful, obviously, to these new companies debuting. When you look at Nvidia and how it's performed year to date, what do the technical levels tell you?
Well, I mean, right now we are testing around that 105 level. That's going to be key for us to be able to hold. In fact, if you kind of look at Nvidia over the last year or so, and you bring up a weekly chart, it has been in its own little flag pattern. And right now, that neckline, the first area of support, you're looking at between 105 and 95. And so we break below 95. That's where you start talking about potentially $75 being on the radar here. But once again, this stock has kind of plateaued over the last couple of months here, and we are seeing that pullback, and maybe some buyers actually step in. Last time that it got to around 104, we did see some buyers kind of stepping in here. So let's see if that's going to take place this time. But the technicals don't look that great. But if you kind of look at the longer term chart, the 3-year weekly chart, it's still in its uptrend, even though the daily chart kind of shows that we might be breaking down here a little bit more over the next couple of trading sessions.
Okay, let's talk about today, what's in front of us. This is the last trading day of the month. Kenny Polcari pointed out that, you usually have this end of quarter window dressing. He says right now it looks like window undressing. So what are you paying attention to as you kind of think about, I know, it's funny, as you think about, just how it's been very difficult for equities this month. The S&P 500 had dipped into correction territory. What are you looking at today when it comes to trading patterns?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the trend is to the downside. We are going to be testing a really key trend line. If you look at the April lows of last year and you kind of run that up, that's pretty much the last primary trend line that we have to the upside if you're looking at a daily chart for now. And so if we open where we are right now, we would be breaking that trend line to the downside, unfortunately. But, I do believe, quarter ends can be very exciting. And it's not going to be so much for the mega cap names. And I think that's going to be the difference, or maybe the nuance that I would kind of call out compared to just calling it window dressing as a whole. If you look at the small caps today, those could be the ones that actually do see a lot of intraday volatility. Doesn't mean that it's going to go lower, doesn't mean it's going to go higher, but usually last hour and a half of the day, small cap companies that have exposure to the SMCI indexes, which do get rebalanced today, you tend to see actually some fireworks there and a healthy rotation. So maybe not so much mega cap names, but I'm looking for the small caps last hour and a half of the day to kind of, if we are going to get kind of this rip rally to the upside, the small caps are going to be the ones that tell us that that's going to happen.
Okay, so we may see some outperformance there and underperformance over in the Mag 7. But tell me what you're looking at for the levels on the S&P 500. We finished at, 55.80 on Friday. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so to the downside, I'm looking at 54.10 to the downside, and then to the upside, 55.65. And that's actually the same level that this JP Morgan collar position really starts, the put side of that. And they are long that 55.65. When we open this morning, if we open below that level, that's where you could actually see additional selling pressure just because of positioning, because that position for that collar is actually expiring today. So that'll be an interesting one to kind of look at. But there's definitely a lot more downside action being priced into the options. And in fact, I screen a lot. I screen a lot when it comes to the SPX flows here, and I don't actually see anything on the call side hitting my screens today. That means that there are 0 calls that have at least been sold to open or bought to open that have cracked the 1,000 level when it comes to volume, and that's something that's fairly rare. That just speaks to the bearishness that we are seeing in the market right now.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be still bearish sentiment reigning as we cap a rough month for stocks. So the upside target, 55.65. I don't know how likely that is. 54.10 is the downside. Thanks a ton. That's Kevin Green.